Part 1. The Invisible Trap. I stood frozen on the front porch, staring at the young man I had raised. My own son, blocking the entrance to his house with his arms spread wide, looking at me like I was a dangerous stranger. "Dad," he said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "You're not stepping a foot inside this house while my wife's family is here. Turn around." I looked at him for what felt like an eternity. My own blood barring me from a family dinner. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I simply turned on my heel, walked back to my SUV, and dialed my attorney before my keys even touched the ignition. "My name is Arthur Pendleton. I'm 63 years old, and before retiring, I spent over 30 years as the chief inspector for the Regional Environmental Safety Board. My entire career was dedicated to one thing: making sure that when people opened their taps, what came out was exactly what they expected. No hidden toxins. No nasty surprises. It turns out I spent 3 decades securing an entire district while completely missing the poison leaking inside my own household. I retired 2 years ago with a solid pension, a fully paid-off brownstone on Elm Street, and exactly one daily routine: trying to get under my wife's skin. Before I tell you the absolute madness that unfolded next, do me a favor, drop a comment and let me know which city you're watching this from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. My wife, Eleanor, and I have been married for 38 years. We tied the knot when she was 23 and I was 25, throwing a chaotic backyard wedding at her mother's place with a cheap folding table covered in finger foods and my eccentric uncle playing the accordion horribly. Together we had one son, Julian, who is now 34. 6 years ago, Julian married a woman named Vanessa. That's how our world looked. Elegant, stable, predictable. Until the day the foundation completely cracked. Eleanor is the type of woman who remembers the birthday of every single person she's ever met, including our local postman. She worked for 26 years as a head administrative assistant at a local elementary school. Trust me when I say absolutely nothing gets past her. My closest friend for nearly a quarter of a century is Marcus. We met decades ago in a local bowling league that folded ages ago. Neither of us can bowl a frame anymore without our knees complaining, but we still catch up almost every single day. He retired from the Transit Authority a few years back and now spends his days in his garage, meticulously stripping down and rebuilding old lawnmower engines that nobody asked him to fix. Before the nightmare started, our lives were beautifully mundane. Sunday roasts, Eleanor fussing over her rose bushes, Marcus walking through our back door unannounced with a cold six-pack and a loud opinion, and Julian calling us every week. Though looking back, those phone calls started thinning out drastically after Vanessa came into the picture. At the time, I brushed it off. I told myself he was just busy adjusting to married life. I didn't want to be the paranoid father-in-law. Vanessa works as a senior paralegal at a prominent corporate estate planning firm downtown called Harrison & Vance. She's 32, incredibly sharp, highly clinical, and the kind of person who literally color-codes her kitchen pantry. When she first joined the family, I genuinely liked her. She was always perfectly polite, engaged in great conversation, and never forgot that Eleanor takes her tea with exactly 2 sugar cubes. What she and Julian successfully hid from us for the first 4 years of their marriage was a massive financial black hole. They had secretly poured every single penny of their life savings into an upscale bistro downtown called the Velvet Apron. By the beginning of last year, the restaurant wasn't just failing, it was hemorrhaging cash. They were losing over $11,000 every single month, money they absolutely did not have. The red flags started appearing in small, easy-to-miss increments. Last winter, Julian called me out of the blue. He kept the tone completely casual, eventually asking if Eleanor and I had ever established a comprehensive living trust for our property. I told him no, explaining that we just had standard old-school wills drafted by a neighborhood lawyer who had since passed away. Julian sighed over the line and told me we really should look into it, saying people our age need to protect their assets before it's too late. I just laughed it off and said, "Sure son, maybe down the road." Then, in early spring, a woman from a property title company called our landline. She wanted to confirm an upcoming property appraisal appointment, one that neither Eleanor nor I had ever scheduled. I assumed it was just a telemarketer or a crossed wire and forgot about it. By the time April rolled around, some of our physical mail began vanishing. Not everything, just specific envelopes. A couple of monthly financial statements from our primary bank never arrived. I chalked it up to a temporary glitch in the postal system, meaning no offense to Marcus, of course. One Sunday afternoon that same month, I drove over to Julian and Vanessa's apartment to return a specialized power tool he had borrowed. As I walked up the back steps, I heard Vanessa's voice cutting through the screen door. She was out on the balcony pacing around. She sounded utterly exhausted, a raw panic in her voice that I had never heard before. "I just need 6 more months," she hissed into the phone to whoever was on the other end. "I have a bulletproof strategy. Nobody is losing this bistro on my watch, do you hear me? Just give me 6 months." At the time, I didn't think much of it. I just felt a pang of sympathy, assuming they were stressed about business. Looking back at it now, the terrifying clarity makes my blood run cold. I now know exactly what those 6 months meant, and more importantly, exactly whose life savings she was planning to use to bankroll her sinking ship. Part 2, the paper trail. "That's impossible," I stammered, shaking my head. "We've never signed anything like that. There's been a mistake." Christina didn't argue. She simply turned her dual monitor around so I could see the screen. There it was, typed out in cold, digital text. Vanessa Vance Pendleton had been granted full power of attorney over David Halverson's financial accounts, banking decisions and real estate, legally notarized on March 14th. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. I didn't recognize the notary's name. And when I looked closely at the signature at the bottom, my stomach dropped. It wasn't mine. It was a clever imitation. The loops on the letters were slightly too wide, the slant was wrong, but to a busy bank teller glance, it was close enough to pass. I didn't go home. I drove straight downtown to the county recorder's office, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I paid the fee and pulled the physical property filings for my address on Elm Street. When the clerk handed me the 4-page document, my breath caught in my throat. Attached right behind the forged power of attorney was a secondary document, a quitclaim deed transfer request for our brownstone. It was sitting quietly in a pending folder, waiting for the final banking clearances to go through before being officially recorded. My house, the home Eleanor and I had completely paid off in 2019, was actively being lined up to be transferred entirely into someone else's name. I walked out to my SUV, climbed into the driver's seat, and just sat there in the parking lot for an hour. I kept staring at the notary stamp on the paperwork, reading the date over and over again as if the numbers might magically change. My hands didn't shake. Instead, they just went completely numb and heavy on the steering wheel, like they had stopped being a part of my body. That night, I called Marcus. He picked up on the second ring, the familiar clinking of tools echoing from his garage in the background. "Marcus," I said, my voice sounding flat even to myself. "I think Vanessa is trying to steal my house." The background noise instantly stopped. There was a long, heavy silence on the line. "Say that again," Marcus said, his tone completely dropping its usual humor. "And say it slower." I laid out every single detail: the bank visit, the power of attorney, the pending deed transfer at the county office, and the notary I had never heard of in my life. Marcus listened without interrupting once. When I finally ran out of words, he let out a low, dark breath. "Arthur, does Julian know about this?" "I don't know," I whispered. "That's the part that's going to hurt a hell of a lot worse than losing the house," Marcus said quietly. And deep down, I knew he was absolutely right. The very next morning, I bypassed my usual routine and walked straight into the law offices of Rebecca Voss, a premier estate litigation attorney whom Christina from the bank had quietly recommended. Rebecca was 51 years old, completely direct, and possessed a sharp, sudden laugh that sounded like a car alarm. She used it rarely, always when you least expected it, to puncture a tense moment. I laid the county copies on her desk. She put on her reading glasses, scanned them once from top to bottom, set them down, and looked me dead in the eye. "Arthur, this notary stamp is a complete fabrication," she said flatly. "There is no Sharon Meeks registered as a licensed notary in this entire state. Someone manufactured this entire document out of thin air." Rebecca didn't waste time feeling sorry for me. She immediately mapped out a cold, calculated strategy. Step 1 was filing an emergency revocation of the fraudulent power of attorney directly with the county to freeze the pending deed transfer before it could be finalized. Step 2 was issuing a legal subpoena to Harrison and Vance, Vanessa's employer, to trace the specific digital notary template and see if it originated from their corporate software. Step 3 was drafting a formal civil complaint for fraud and forgery, and Step 4 was a direct referral to the State Bar Association's Ethics Board, since Vanessa's paralegal certification made her legally bound to strict behavioral codes. We hold off on involving the police and criminal prosecutors until our paper trail is completely airtight, Rebecca warned me, tapping her pen on the desk. District attorneys want undeniable forensic evidence, not family drama. For the next 6 weeks, Arthur, I need you to be completely boring. Do not confront your son. Do not look at your daughter-in-law sideways. Just go home and live your life. I tried my best, but Eleanor has known me for nearly 4 decades. By the second week, when I completely stopped sleeping and spent my nights staring at the ceiling, she knew something was deeply wrong. On a Tuesday evening, I finally broke down and laid the copies of the forged documents on our kitchen table. Eleanor didn't cry. She didn't scream. Her face simply went completely pale, and her voice dropped into that terrifyingly calm, icy tone she only uses when she is more furious than humanly possible. "Get me a copy of every single page," she said, reading the text line by line. After a long silence, she looked up. "That girl sat at my dinner table, remembered exactly how I take my tea, and forged my husband's signature in the exact same year. I'm almost impressed by the sheer malice." 6 weeks later, on a hot Saturday evening in July, Julian and Vanessa hosted a formal family dinner at their place, because Vanessa's parents were visiting from out of town. Earlier that same week, Rebecca had given us the green light to move. The fraudulent power of attorney had been successfully revoked. The fake notary stamp had been legally traced back to an online kit purchased under Vanessa's personal credit card, and the deed transfer was permanently frozen. I drove over to their apartment early, intending to look my son in the eye and give him the chance to tell me the truth before the rest of the dinner guests arrived. But the moment Julian opened the door, I saw the truth written all over his face. His jaw was locked tight, and his eyes darted everywhere except at mine. He stepped forward, putting both arms out to block the doorway. Part 3, The Broken Bridge. "Don't do this here, Dad," Julian muttered, his throat tightening. "Just go home. We can talk about this on Monday." I stood there on the welcome mat, looking past his shoulder at the dining table beautifully set for Vanessa's parents. The table I had been formally invited to, now guarded like a restricted zone. "Julian," I said, keeping my voice dangerously steady, "do you have any idea what your wife actually did?" Before he could answer, Vanessa appeared behind him, drying her hands on a linen dish towel. The moment her eyes met mine, she froze in the hallway, her clinical composure instantly slipping. "Arthur," she said, trying to force a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Whatever this is about, can it please wait until my parents leave? They're in the living room." "No, Vanessa, it can't," I said. A general power of attorney with my forged signature and a completely fabricated notary stamp was filed against my accounts in March. Does that ring a bell? She didn't flinch right away. Instead, she took a slow, calculated breath, stepping up next to my son. "I was protecting the estate, Arthur," she said, her voice dropping into a professional, patronizing tone. "I was protecting it for the family. For Julian, for you, and for Eleanor. You two are getting older, and frankly, absolutely nothing was set up correctly to shield your assets." "I never asked for your protection," I replied. "You would have thanked me eventually," she hissed, a flicker of panic breaking through her clinical armor. "Once you actually understood what I was trying to accomplish for this family's future." "Vanessa," I said flatly, "the notary on that document doesn't exist. There is no Sharon Meeks registered anywhere in this state. That's not estate planning. That is a Class C felony." She had absolutely no answer for that. I watched her face transform, not with dramatic tears, but with a terrifying, hollow stillness. It was the exact same stillness that had paralyzed my own hands on the steering wheel weeks ago. Julian looked at her, then back at me, and something behind his eyes completely shattered. It wasn't sheer surprise. It looked more like a man watching a bridge he had long suspected was rotten finally collapse into the river. That's not how she explained it," Julian stammered, looking at Vanessa. "She told me she was just helping us plan ahead." "Julian, she forged my name," I said softly, looking my son in the eye. "There is no version of helping that includes manufacturing a government stamp and forging a signature." He couldn't look me in the eyes. Neither of them had anything left to say. I turned around without another word, walked down the steps to my SUV, and dialed Rebecca's number before I even put the key in the ignition. If this happened to you, if you discovered a person sitting at your own family table had orchestrated a plot to take everything you worked 30 years for, what would your next move be? Let me know in the comments. The fallout didn't involve a screaming match in a crowded courtroom. It was handled swiftly through the cold machinery of Rebecca's office and the county prosecutor. Vanessa was formally charged with first-degree forgery and aggravated identity theft under state law. Both serious felonies given that the fraud involved a forged power of attorney and an attempted transfer of a property valued well over $400,000. Faced with an undeniable forensic paper trail, she pled guilty to a reduced felony count of forgery. She received 3 years of strictly monitored probation, a court order for full restitution to cover every penny of our legal fees, and a permanent, lifetime revocation of her paralegal certification. She was terminated from Harrison and Vance within 48 hours of the firm receiving our attorney's subpoena. The Velvet Apron closed its doors for good 2 months later, the mounting debts finally crushing the business anyway. Julian packed his bags and moved out of their apartment by the end of September. They are legally separated now, living entirely apart, and he's currently renting a small apartment across town. He calls us every single week now, sometimes twice. Our relationship isn't magically fixed. Rebecca warned me that some things take a hell of a lot longer to repair than a county deed, and she was right. But Julian came over for Thanksgiving. He didn't sit across the table from me this time. He sat right next to me, which felt like a massive step forward. Our brownstone is entirely ours, the title is completely clean, and there are no pending claims. Eleanor had every lock in the house changed the very next week. Not because she thought anyone would show up with a crowbar, but because, as she put it, a woman deserves to know that her own front door actually stands for something. It's a quiet Sunday evening now, 6 months after that night on the porch. Eleanor is in the kitchen, furiously muttering at a complex baking recipe that has apparently offended her. Marcus is out on our back patio, aggressively pretending to service a lawnmower that already runs perfectly fine, just so he has a valid excuse to hang around. Eleanor yells through the window that dinner will be ready in 20 minutes, adding that if Marcus kills her grass with motor oil, she's sending him the bill. Marcus yells back that he'll take her legal threat under advisement. I sit down on the porch bench next to my old friend, and for a long time, neither of us says a word. And honestly, that's completely fine. Because some evenings don't need to be filled with noise.